Today, significant developments unfolded as Iran and Israel engaged in a series of military actions. Iranian authorities declared that Israel's strikes on the country's military and nuclear facilities amounted to a declaration of war. Earlier, Israel had launched wide-scale strikes against Iranian targets, including nuclear facilities, ballistic missile factories, and military commanders, stating that the operation aimed to prevent Tehran from developing an atomic weapon. Reports indicate that the Israeli military intercepted around 100 drones launched from Iran. Meanwhile, Jordan's military said it had intercepted drones and missiles that violated the kingdom's airspace. Later, Israeli media announced that the directive for citizens to remain near protected areas had been lifted, suggesting that most of the drone threat had been neutralized. Iranian officials reported that top military commanders, including Hossein Salami, were killed in the strikes, along with at least 6 nuclear scientists. National Emergency Services confirmed at least 95 casualties, including women and children, with the wounded being treated in medical centers across 12 provinces. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps reported that its aerospace commander, Major General Amir Ali Hajizadeh, was martyred along with several officers in an airstrike on their command center. In response, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei appointed new military commanders. Mohammad Pakpour was named as the new commander of the Revolutionary Guards. Abdalrahim Mousavi was appointed Chief of the Armed Forces General Staff, and Major General Ali Shaidamani was assigned as commander of the 𝐃𝐚𝐰𝐬 headquarters. A senior advisor to the Supreme Leader, Ali Shamkhani, was also injured in the attack. Pakpour vowed revenge, threatening to open the gates of hell on Israel. According to Reuters, 2 loud explosions were reported near Iran's Fordow nuclear site, as per Iranian state-affiliated Fars News. In a separate development, Iranian state media Press TV stated that Iran's air defense systems intercepted Israeli missiles south of Tehran. Meanwhile, the Israeli military confirmed that its air force continues to strike targets inside Iran, focusing on missile launchers and infrastructure used for launching unmanned aerial vehicles. Iran's foreign minister urged the United Nations Security Council to act, invoking Article 51 of the UN Charter. The Council will convene an emergency meeting tonight at 19 o'clock GMT, following a request by Iran, which was supported by Russia and China. In a letter to the United Nations, Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi described the Israeli strikes as a declaration of war and reiterated Iran's right to self-defense under Article 51. He called on the Security Council to address what he termed an unlawful act. An Israeli security source disclosed that Mossad commandos had operated inside Iran prior to the attack, and that covert operations targeting Iran's strategic missile arrays were underway. Israel reportedly also established an attack drone base near Tehran and struck Iranian air defenses, destroying dozens of radars and missile launchers. In a recorded video message, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stated that Israel is at a decisive moment in its history. He announced Operation Rising Lion, a mission aimed at eliminating the Iranian threat, and vowed to continue the operation until that threat is removed. Netanyahu said Israel had informed the United States in advance of its plan. "We updated them ahead of time. They knew about the attack," he said, adding that US President Donald Trump makes his decisions independently. He reiterated Trump's position that Iran cannot have nuclear weapons. They cannot have enrichment capabilities. President Trump told Reuters that the United States knew everything about Israel's strike on Iran. He said, "I tried to save Iran humiliation and death," adding that it is not too late to reach a deal. He told NBC News that Iran had missed an earlier opportunity for a nuclear deal but now may have another chance. "They missed the opportunity to make a deal. Now, they may have another opportunity. We'll see," he said. Trump claimed that Iranian representatives have reached out to him, suggesting continued interest in negotiations. He also said he is not concerned about a regional war and noted that it is unclear whether Iran still has a nuclear program. Trump mentioned that U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff is scheduled to meet an Iranian delegation in Oman on Sunday, although he is unsure if the meeting will happen. UN nuclear watchdog chief Rafael Grossi expressed readiness to visit Iran to assess the situation and noted that no elevated radiation levels were detected at the Natanz facility. International reactions were swift. World leaders strongly condemned the escalation and issued urgent calls for de-escalation. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio clarified that the U.S. had no role in the operation and warned Iran not to target American personnel or interests. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer called the developments deeply concerning and urged all parties to return to diplomacy. Foreign Minister David Lammy warned that the conflict posed a threat to regional stability. France's Jean-Noël Barrot reaffirmed Israel's right to self-defense but stressed the need for restraint and diplomatic engagement. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz echoed these sentiments, urging both sides to avoid further conflict and emphasizing the global imperative to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons. India also expressed deep concern and called for restraint. Malaysia's Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim condemned the Israeli strikes and urged Israel's allies to pressure it to halt further aggression. China denounced violations of Iran's sovereignty, while Russia labeled the strikes unprovoked and unacceptable. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres condemned any military escalation and voiced concern over the threat to nuclear facilities. From the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Turkey, and Oman all condemned the strikes and called for international intervention. Pakistan also condemned the attack, with Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif calling it unjustified aggression. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has ordered immediate assistance for Pakistani Zaireen in Iran, following deadly Israeli airstrikes. On Friday, Israel launched wide-scale strikes, targeting what it described as nuclear facilities, ballistic missile factories, and military commanders. Israel called it the beginning of a prolonged operation, while Iran vowed a harsh response. In retaliation, Tehran reportedly launched around 100 drones toward Israeli territory. In response to the deteriorating regional security, the Prime Minister instructed the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to set up a crisis management cell and ensure all available resources are deployed for the safe return of Pakistani pilgrims. The Pakistani embassy in Iran has been directed to stay alert and actively assist Zaireen. Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar shared the embassy's hotline number, urging communication. The Foreign Office has also advised Pakistani citizens to reconsider travel plans to Iran and Iraq. Pakistan condemned Israel's military actions as unjustified and illegitimate. FO spokesperson Shafkat Ali Khan said the strikes violated Iran's sovereignty and international law, adding that Iran has the right to self-defense under Article 51 of the UN Charter. Pakistan reiterated its solidarity with Iran and called for global accountability for Israel's actions. President Asif Ali Zardari and Prime Minister Shehbaz termed the Israeli attacks a violation of Iranian sovereignty, warning of further regional destabilization. Meanwhile, in economic news, the State Bank of Pakistan is expected to hold its policy rate at 12% in its upcoming meeting. Earlier expectations of a rate cut shifted after the Israeli strike sparked fears of rising global commodity prices. 11 out of 14 analysts in a Reuters poll predicted no change to the rate, citing inflationary risks. And in Austria, Pakistan condemned a tragic school shooting in Graz, where a former student killed 10 people before taking his own life. It's the worst school shooting in Austria's modern history. The Foreign Office expressed condolences to the victims' families and stood in solidarity with Austria. Police described the attacker as an introvert and fan of online shooting games, with a fascination for the 1999 Columbine massacre. A U.S. appeals court has temporarily allowed President Donald Trump to maintain control of National Guard troops deployed in Los Angeles, amid ongoing protests over aggressive immigration raids. This decision by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals pauses a lower court ruling from earlier Thursday, where U.S. District Judge Charles Breyer declared the deployment unlawful. Breyer ordered the National Guard be returned to California Governor Gavin Newsom's control, a short-lived victory that was paused just 2.5 hours later. Newsom's office referenced his earlier remarks, expressing confidence that the 36-page ruling will hold. Trump, on the other hand, welcomed the appeals court's move. The three-judge panel that issued the administrative stay includes 2 Trump appointees and 1 appointed by President Biden. They plan to hold a hearing on Tuesday to assess the full merits of Judge Breyer's decision. Trump initially summoned the National Guard on Saturday in response to protests and ordered U.S. Marines to join them on Monday. A battalion of 700 Marines is expected to arrive Friday, an extraordinary military presence supporting civilian law enforcement. Troops have been guarding a federal detention center in downtown LA, the focal point of the protests. Though mostly peaceful, the demonstrations have included isolated violence and are concentrated in a limited area. Judge Breyer noted that the military's presence was heightening tensions and undermining California's ability to use the Guard for other critical missions. Mayor Karen Bass echoed these concerns, urging ICE to halt the raids and warning of economic impacts as immigrants avoid public spaces. She declared, "Peace begins with ICE leaving Los Angeles." Tensions further escalated when federal agents forcibly removed Senator Alex Padilla from a press conference where Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem vowed to liberate the city. Trump insists the military intervention prevented Los Angeles from burning.